First of all, our closest allies in the world are the most repressive regimes on the planet.
I agree.
Right?
We should not be involved
We sit
with
down
them.
with Saudi Arabia. Obama just announced that we were lifting our freeze of transferring to arms to the regime in Egypt, in Qatar, and in the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. The most repressive regimes. Those are the ones with whom we work most closely. So the idea that we're sitting down at the table with a repressive regime is not only not new; it's something that has been the staple of American foreign policy for decades.
But we shouldn't be.
But doing that with Iran, which compared to those other regimes, actually they are a more enlightened and a more progressive regime, certainly than Saudi Arabia, certainly than those Gulf states. Women are an important part of their government. They're more educated. There's more secular rights there. Iran is a horribly repressive regime, but compared to some of our best allies, I'd rather live in Iran. Secondly, of course, we have higher expectations for political rights when it comes to states in the United States than we do foreign countries. Foreign countries have the right to create their own set of political principles, and we shouldn't go around demanding that political rights that we want here at home are the same ones that have to happen in Iran as well. I don't think that's our place.
It's not our place, but that is, unfortunately, that's what's gotten us into this trouble around the world. Two things. One, nobody knows what our principles are because we get into bed with Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So what the hell do we even stand for?
Right.
We either torture or we don't torture, and then we say it out loud. You tell me what your principles are and really do it. Don't tell me one thing and do another thing. Don't sit here and play and cozy up to dictators around the world. It makes no sense. That's why people don't trust us. That's why people hate us, because we don't stand for it.
Well, right, and people make a big deal of the Death to America chanting, which happens in Iran, and that is a disturbing thing, right? You're an American and you're hearing Death to America. Now, most people understand that rhetoric and actions are not the same. Iran cannot actually impose death on America and hasn't actually tried. They're rational actors. But there's a background to that, right? As you just said, Iran had a democratically elected government. The CIA in the middle of the 1950s overthrew that government and imposed this heinous dictator called the Shah of Iran, who oppressed people in Iran violently and brutally for decades. And everyone knew it was the United States that supported him, just like we support the Saudi monarchs and everything else. So if you're an Iranian citizen, if we were an American citizen and you had some brutal dictator being propped up by a foreign power, of course you'd be hostile to that foreign power. And so I think, it's not a question of ever blaming ourselves, but I think that rational adults think about their own actions and how it affects the rest of the world.
Yeah, and I agree with you again. I think when we entered the progressive era, Woodrow Wilson and it's my contention, we did a lot to cause World War II because we started telling everybody how to live their life. We caused a lot of the animosity in South America because we said, you know what? What's good for us is going to be good for you. No, that's not true. Get out of everybody's business. So I agree with all of that. What we're talking about now, though, is sitting down and we've got nuclear actors, which changes the face of the Middle East. We have ISIS. And while they're on different sides, ISIS and Iran, you have the same kind of mentality of, we're just going to kill a bunch of people to hasten the return of the promised one. That's what Mahmoud Ahmadinejad said every speech.
Right, and he's no longer their president.
No, I know that, but you serve, with the Ayatollah's, blessing.
But I think, that region, like most regions, is filled with lots of extremists. And the irony is that right now in Iraq and even in Syria, we actually are fighting as allies with Iran against ISIS. Just as was true in Afghanistan when the Taliban became the principal concern of the United States in the wake of 9/11, Iran hated the Taliban and gave us all kinds of assistance because they understood Afghanistan and also feared the Taliban because they fear Sunni extremism, because that's been one of their enemies for a long time as well. And I think if you look at the region, yes, it's true there's lots of religious rhetoric that's disturbing that comes from the Iranian mullahs. But if you look at their actions in the world, I do think there's a basis of rationality to be able to sit down and Glenn, what is the alternative? What is the alternative? I mean, the United States could not possibly afford to fight a war